Hey everyone, welcome to another Subbuteo training video. In this one we're going to be looking at goalkeeping. It's been requested quite a bit, so I thought I would put something together to go through the different positions that you can put your keeper when you're receiving shots from certain areas of the pitch. A disclaimer, I'm not the world's best keeper. I think I can always improve on that area of my game personally. And another point to goalkeeping is if you are conceding a lot of shots, it's not necessarily always your goalkeeping. It does really depend on where you're sort of conceding those goals from. So, for example, if you're conceding them from sort of this area and this area, then it's most likely you're defending without being too harsh. If you are conceding shots from those places, then you should be really stopping the defender trying to get there in the first place, because they are sort of the high percentage shot areas, and that's where attackers want to get to, especially at a good level. So you may actually be a really good keeper, you're just conceding shots from areas that you should be defending better. So there's that to think about as well, but again, only you will kind of know that where your weaknesses are with goalkeeping. For instance, if you are conceding a lot of shots from out here, then that could be a sign that either you're really unlucky and everyone hits worldies from out here and it goes in, or your keeping's a little bit suspect. Either or, we'll go through how to position in each sort of area. I'll go through like maybe 4 to 5 different ways to hold the keeper. Now, these 4 to 5 ways are not not how I would keep. I probably use 2 of the ways sometimes, and the rest are all just sort of off peak and sort of other ways you could possibly do it, but you'll see why we don't, because it just opens up so much more space. So you'll see a few different options. It's up for you to go away and sort of figure out which one you like the look of the most for different areas. I'm not going to tell you which one to use because I don't want to get the blame for people conceding lots of goals. So I'll just show you the options and point out the pros and cons and sort of where an attacker could put the ball for each one, and then go from there. So I will see you in the next segment of the videos, and I hope you enjoy this one. Okay, so we're going to go into positioning your keeper for a shot from sort of out wide. So a few ways you can hold your keeper. The first one we'll show you is sort of here. So in this position I've got my rod basically against the back of the goal and in line with the post and kind of coming off it a bit. That means that I'm kind of, from this point of view, I can see that I'm covering the near post, but I'm probably going to give away a potential lob over here. So I'm just aware of that. So if I want to reposition a bit and come across, because I don't want the lob, if I want to angle this way a bit more to stop that so I can get up above it, then I need to know that I'm giving away the near post. So what you'll see a lot with all this keeping is your adjustments will mean that an angle becomes available that wasn't available before. So what I tried to think about is what is the least likely angle for them to score from. So for instance, from here, near post is probably the most likely option because they're going to have to lob it over me to score. Now, if they lob it over me and they get it down in here, then fantastic, great goal, can't do much about it. But if I'm over this way, they can just hit it straight at me, good dink, and that is going to be in at the near post. And as keepers know, shouldn't really concede it in near post. So that's the first position, kind of aware that the lob's going to come. Now if the lob you think is going to come, maybe you had a warning shot, and you think, okay, he's actually quite good at chipping the ball, you may want to prepare yourself to move across, and that's fine. There's a risk with moving across that you actually misjudge it and you move too far and the ball goes in, or they fake it out a bit and they actually mishit it and it goes near post, and if you'd stayed still you would have scored. I tend to just stay still and just try my best to position myself, but at higher levels you can see that the reactions come into it quite a bit too. You can also position the keeper back on the goal line in a sideways position. Don't know whether you can see it from there, but it actually looks quite large from the attacker's perspective. You hold this here. It does mean that they can't really dink it, and if they do dink it, it's got to be right down in here. The other option is they can drill it. So if they drill the ball up high, they can go above, and they can also probably drill bottom corner, potentially. Again, drilling it is quite a skill, and some bases make it easier than other bases, but if you know your base is typically going to dink it, then you need to know you need to aim for around here. So again, from a goalkeeping perspective, you just need to know what the other person's capable of and whether or not you're comfortable keeping like this. I think you have to be quite brave to do it this way. So that's an option for you. The other option is standing up. So if you stand the keeper up and face the ball, you just need to know that, again, dinking it is much more on than it was before. I think this is a much easier lob than this, because when the ball comes down, it's most likely going to touch the top of the keeper, whereas straight on, you know, you can lift him a bit, or try to do that to tip over. But actually, the lob is there's a bigger gap here, basically, to lob into. So that's that. You can also hold him sideways out if you wanted to, something like that. Again, the lob is on. So then the sort of different options you've got from that position. So yeah, again, think of what works for you, what wouldn't work for you, and then go from there. But they're your different options, and the best thing with keeping is you need to just think what the attacker's options are. And if you think about what the attacker could do, that kind of gives you an idea on how you should position yourself. Okay, so a really quick tip on positioning yourself when you're keeping that I don't see loads of people doing, and that is just getting down low and trying to see the ball from a lower perspective instead of being really high up with it. If you're low down, you can kind of see the attacker and where they could put the ball, and it just means that you're positioned and you feel better. It's a much better stance than being up and just trying to keep like that. So if you can get low down and you can see the ball, you can kind of see your angles, you can kind of get a gist of how you want to keep. So whether you're going to just stay stationary, or you think, you know what, that's going to come this way, then you can get across, or prepare yourself for that. It just gives you a better viewpoint rather than being too high. So I don't see loads of people do it. Backs permitting. Just try it, see how you get on. Okay, so moving on to the second position for the attacker. We obviously started out here, and we're going to move into sort of between the edge of the 16-yard box and the penalty spot. So around this area. This is a much higher percentage chance area than out here. You'll see that if the attacker's shooting from here, even if when you play and you're taking a shot, most players want to get around this area to have a shot. So that's the first thing to think of, is that if you need to know that there's going to be a lot more space opening up in the goal. That's why people come into this area, because they have more options when they come to shooting. So the thing to remember is that you can't cover everything, and you just need to know where the attacker might be putting the ball, depending on your positioning for your keeper. So first position we can do is similar to the first position we tried in the last area, and that is up against the sort of post and then the back of the bar, and trying to angle it outwards. So you can either keep your keeper up straight, or you can angle him that way. If you angle him this way, you kind of cut off this near post a bit more, but you offer out a bit more of the far post. If you keep him straight, you don't completely cut out this near post, but it doesn't give him a great, well, from this angle, it gives them a bit of an option near post, not like you would need to be very precise, and it probably gives them a bit less of an option far post. So stuff to think about there if you want to cut off, depending on where they are. For instance, if they're here, you know, then that's probably going to cut off more of that, but that opens up a lot more. So from here, though, that's the sort of two options you can go for: a bit of a stood up and out, or a bit of a stood out and an angle. Option to face up the ball if you want to face up the ball, and potentially angle him a bit. Again, opens up this near post really a lot, and probably cuts out this far post a bit, but doesn't stop maybe a low shot. You can also bring the keeper back if you want to bring him back onto the line, a bit like the first segment of this shooting. Yeah, you can bring him back, but unlike from over here, there's definitely more of an option to basically get this ball chipped and dinked into here. There's also an option to go low left of the keeper. So yeah, there becomes a bit more space because of how we're angled. You can also potentially, if you wanted to, push him out and have him sideways on. Again, this just opens up a bit more of a dink either side, I suppose. So yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with, if you want to stand him up, if you want to have him positioned how you want to have him. But for instance, what I would just say is to know that wherever you position him, some area of the goal is going to be slightly exposed, maybe not completely. So for instance, if you do know that, you know, the option to chip this over here is on, then you need to remember that you can move once they've taken the shot. You can go across. So if you've got good reaction times, feel free to do that. Like I said, there's always a risk with moving. There's a split second where you know that you need to go. If you don't get that intuition to go, then I would just say try and stay still. A lot of the time they might hit the keeper, or it's just going to go in and you would have missed it anyway. So it's very much a scenario thing on whether you move or not and how you feel in that moment. Move into sort of the middle. Again, this is a tough one to keep from. There aren't that many options. There's a potential to have your keeper back on the line and try and fill out the goal a bit. But again, that gives the option of low bottom, low left. If you come out, same thing really. It does cut down that angle to go low a little bit more, but the option to go high right, high left comes a bit more obvious, or even just a dink over the top. You can also face him up that way, but again, that low left, low right option becomes a thing. And then depending on how you want to, if you wanted to face him up but angle, then again, whatever side you're angling to opens up. So be aware of that. They're sort of the different options. You can maybe go from like that perspective, but again, this comes a bit more cut off, but you're just giving all of that space away. So lots of different options for people to choose from. Again, from this area, you just need to admit that it's a really high percentage chance, and you know it's likely your opponent will score. So you know, try and get blocks in at this point. I would say it's not down to your keeping if you're conceding from here. So yeah, they're the sort of different positions that you're probably going to concede shots from, and the different ways you can maybe hold your keeper. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see any more goalkeeping stuff. It's really hard to do drills for goalkeepers, mainly because you need an opponent. So some of the best practice is literally shooting practice with a opponent, or just game practice and just getting to know your angles and your sort of how you should keep for different areas within the shooting box. But yeah, hopefully this has been useful, and I will speak to you in the next video coming soon.